Music during the Harlem Renaissance influenced the nation and its citizens to be the best version of themselves and work toward their hopes and dreams. As music changes, we see the same changes in our society. Today, music inspires America in the same manner as it did during the Harlem Renaissance.
Now we're back with our special segment on the Harlem Renaissance, bringing to you a new guest with your host, Jim McNamee.
Thank you for joining us again, and up next we'll have Ruby Conway, a singer-songwriter and dancer, to join us. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
I'm
anytime.
super excited to be here.
So to get started, could you just tell me a little bit about your past and how you become who you are today?
Yeah, well, I started off, I had a pretty rough childhood, and I dropped out of high school when I was 16, but I really didn't want that to let me stop myself from achieving my dream. I've always wanted to be a singer, and so when I became an adult and I moved out of home, I worked really hard for what I wanted, and now I'm here.
All right, and you said you had a rough childhood and whatnot. Do you believe that some inspirational figure got you through your rough childhood and where you are today?
Yeah, definitely. Lena Horne has always been an inspiration in my life. She was born in Brooklyn in 1917, so right at the start of the Harlem Renaissance, and she moved around a lot as a child and didn't have an easy time, but she worked hard for what she wanted, and she became a huge civil rights activist, which I think is amazing that she, even with such so many barriers, she pushed through them.
And do you believe, in theme with our Harlem Renaissance, that there is an American dream, and what do you think that is?
Yeah, I think American Dream is all about working really hard for what you want, and the fact that all your dreams are achievable. Like everyone can achieve their dreams.
And do you think that Lena Horne had a special way she did this, especially her being in music and you also being in music? Do you think music helps people achieve their American dreams?
Yeah, I think the fact that she had her music, it was able to give her a greater voice and impact more people because people could look up to her. I think she was not just an inspiration to me, but also to others because she, even with so much discrimination against her and so many barriers, like I said, she was able to become just as famous as any white person in that time and have as much of an impact.
All right, thank you. And lastly, do you think that her being a woman, that music had a different effect on her than it would most people, or?
Yeah, I mean, not only did she have racial discrimination at that time, but she also had gender discrimination. So the fact that she was able to appear on shows with Duke Ellington and Louis Armstrong was pretty impressive of her, that she's among those super influential men.
So ultimately then what you're saying is that music, while being some people's American dream, no matter who it is, it can help someone achieve their own American dream.
Yeah, definitely. If that's what you're passionate about.
All right. Thank you, Ruby, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure.
Super glad to be a part of this.
Yep, anytime. Hope to have you again. Awkward. Special thanks to Ruby Conway for blessing our show with her presence tonight, and now we'll go to Connie Cronander for a special message.
Don't go anywhere. We're not having a commercial break like normal. We're having a special video about Ruby's inspiration and other musicians that influenced during the Harlem Renaissance.
Lena Horne was born June 30th, 1917 in Brooklyn, New York. She left school at age 16 to help support her mother and become a dancer at the Cotton Club in Harlem. She later sang at Carnegie Hall and appeared in such films as Stormy Weather and The Wiz. She was also known for her work with civil rights groups and refused to play roles that stereotyped African American women, ladies.
Welcome to the Late Night Show with your host, Jim McNamee.
Hello guys, I'm Jim McNamee here on the Late Night Show, and we're here since February just passed. We're here to share a little bit of history and talk about the Harlem Renaissance. And up first we have Drake to speak with us.
Hey,
how are you, Drake?
I'm alright, Jim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you.
Love this city.
So first, to get started, what I wanted to do is talk a little bit about your past and how you think you came to rise to the level of success that you have now.
I feel like when I first got my start on Degrassi, that kind of propelled my whole career. I always wanted to do music, but the first thing I had to get into was acting. I don't know why I did that. It was just something along the way, and I really enjoyed it, and it gave me a platform to do what I really wanted to do, which was music. So that's how I got to where I am today.
And through your past, do you think you have anyone who inspired you?
When I was young, I listened to a lot of different types of music. I listened to jazz, I listened to funk, I listened to pop, soul, different types of stuff. And I loved so many different artists. I feel like the one that stood out to me the most, though, was probably Louis Armstrong. The way he connected with his audiences, you could just tell that he loved his music, and that's all he really wanted to do with his life. And he was living his dream, and he just wanted to share that with the world, you know?
And in theme with our Harlem Renaissance Tonight type of thing, do you think, what are your thoughts on the American Dream, the idea of it?
I feel like everybody's is slightly different, based on what you aspire to be. When you're young, you see yourself as one thing, and your whole life you're kind of working towards it. And everybody's is slightly different. And in my case, I have the pleasure of living my American dream. I get to do my music. I get to perform for the world. I get to touch people's hearts, man. So, yeah.
And in relation to Louis Armstrong and people of the 1920s, do you think that music had a role in inspiring them to achieve their American dream, or no?
I feel like it had everything to do with it. Louis Armstrong, I feel like it was said best by Duke Ellington. He said of Louis Armstrong that, you know, he was born poor, he died rich, and he never hurt anybody along the way. And he died a happy man because he did what he loved throughout his whole life, and that was music. So music had everything to do with inspiring the American dream, because people just speak from their thoughts and their feelings, and they get to share that with the world, and the world gets to have a different perspective on life. So.
All right, Drake, thank you for coming on. I love the insight you've given us tonight and your own opinions.
I appreciate it. I thank you for having me.
Anytime. Thank you. Hope to have you again.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Louis Armstrong was the first great influence in jazz, no question about it.
Louis Armstrong was born on August 4th, 1901, in New Orleans, Louisiana. When he was only 11 years old, Armstrong was sent to live at a boys' home. Armstrong played in various bands and riverboats before moving to Chicago in 1922 to join his mentor Joe Oliver's Creole Jazz Band. With his recordings from 1925 to 1928, with his group The Hot Five and The Hot Seven, Armstrong changed the course of jazz, producing hits like Muggles and West End Blues.
Ladies and gentlemen, now we have Connie Cronander here to share a special message with you about the theme of tonight's show.
Normally, during this time, we have commercial breaks between our show. But instead, we're going to have different memorials to celebrate and honor the different musicians of the Harlem Renaissance.
To kick it off, we'll have a memorial on Louis Armstrong in honor of Drake's inspiration.
And now what y'all been waiting for on our special segment of the Harlem Renaissance, the #1 guest coming, who's soon going to be announced by your host, Jim McNamee.
Alright, thank you guys for staying this long. Up next, we got DJ Meow Meow coming into the set. Gonna hear a little bit about it from her. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being on my show.
Anytime. I'm glad to be here.
It's a pleasure. Let's get this started. Just tell me a little bit about your past and how you got to where you are today.
Alright, so my parents always loved music. Wherever we were going, on road trips, we would all sing together. My dad would do some cool beats. We were always involved with it, with whatever we're doing, whether it's going to church or eating dinner. It was always incorporated somehow.
Yeah, and do you have anyone who inspired you, other than you say music's always in your life, but do you have like a more famous person who's inspired you along the way?
Yeah. Besides my parents, which were big, I would say Duke Ellington, because he reminds me a lot of myself, my own situation.
And how would you say that his story has reminded you of yourself?
Well, he was also from a middle-class family who was also into music a lot, and so he was always around it. But he really wanted his music to reach all audiences. There was this one story about how he was going down through Harlem, and he was excited because there was no known segregation there. There was like no white-only stores, but the only thing that really made him mad was that and this one club was excluded poor African American people, and he wasn't about that. He wanted his music to reach everyone, despite race, despite gender, despite wealth, and that's kind of what I want to do too.
And keeping in theme with our Harlem Renaissance Night, a big topic of that in discussion today is the idea of the American dream, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts on the American dream being such a successful person.
Yeah, so the American dream for me was, like I said, was to reach to everyone, because I want people just to be inspired and to be who they really are, which I think what Duke Ellington was trying to encourage in the Harlem Renaissance. He was all for the new man, not acting what society wants you to be, but really embracing who you are, who your heritage is, and where you come from.
And lastly, how do you think music has helped either you or Duke Ellington, and more so, how can it help anyone achieve their American dream?
Well, you can see how it helped Duke Ellington. I mean, we're still listening to him today. He's still influential, and he's still big. I think it helped me come to where I am and be able to talk to you and speak to everyone. Also, another thing that Duke Ellington said was that he thinks music is more impactful than a political debate. He thinks he can reach more people and get his voice heard on I don't want to say safer, but less in your face. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, he saw very quickly that his fellow activists that wanted rights right away, that were yelling at people like this is how it should be, even though racism is bad and that it should be eliminated, you have to go about it in a way that reaches everyone and they can understand.
And so you would say that music is definitely the strongest influence we have today and in the 1920s.
Definitely, I would say so.
All right, and also I'm told that you're gonna do a little bit of a rap for us based on one of Duke Ellington's songs.
I don't rap that much. I'm just a DJ, but I will if you give me the beat. If you give me the beat.
All right. I'll figure it out.
I'll figure it out.
You gonna sit down or?
I mean, I guess I'll sit down. I don't want to.
You want it quick or slow? Quick or slow?
Oh, medium. Medium.
Medium. Okay. Okay. I think we can do medium.
All
When
right.
you're ready.
Let's do this. Poets say that all who love are blind, but I'm in love, and I know what time it is. The good book says, "Go and seek, and ye shall find." Well, I've sought, and my what a climate is. That's actually an original piece from Duke Ellington.
Thank you, DJ Meow Meow. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime.
Glad to have you. You've blessed our show.
Excited to be here.
We'll see you another time, I'm sure.
All right, y'all have a good one.
All right, and thank you all of you who stayed this long to watch. I know it's a long video, but I hope you enjoyed it.
All right, I don't need to come back on already.
We out this bitch.